to Wager Talk's last call. I got my glasses on because we were in the middle of a TNA segment and got booted. I have no idea why I can't do the show without technical difficulties. It's just like part of the show now. We're going to laugh it off. We're going to have some coffee in our Coco in Vegas mug and listen to Ralph's TNA. He's got a wonderful chart. I just made fun of my good friend Joey Cheese for not being able to read said chart, and somehow we lost it. Ruined the joke, ruined the chart. Ralph, let's go through some of these situations for the round of 32. And then, of course, guys, we'll get your questions answered in the chat. So if you have a question regarding the slate today, Ralph is here at your disposal. We're going to take this for about another 15 minutes up until the NIT tips off.
Kelly, let me start by saying this. You and I did some TNA videos for March Madness last week. And we started in saying the number one most important thing to remember is this. Round one March Madness games, the last 5 years, have gone under more than 60% of the time. So if you blindly bet every under in round one, you have cashed 60%. Kelly, Thursday and Friday this week, those unders went 22-10. So write this down, guys. Next year when Kelly and I do our March Madness round one video, we're going to be saying that the last 6 years, about 62% of round one games have gone under the total. Well, what's round two? Now, again, I'm not telling you to bet the favorites or bet the overs or unders based on what the results are, but it is important to know. Remember, there's a big transition. Having 4 days off to prep for a team is one thing. You can learn how to stop defenses. You've got to remember, too, these mid-majors are playing in huge NBA arenas, different sight lines. All of that leads to those unders in round one. So what happens in round two? Well, I went back to 2018, and actually, the over has hit 53.8% of the time. It makes sense. Second game in the arena, you're going to shoot better. You're more familiar with those circumstances. In round two, the favorites have gone 43, 36, and 1 against the spread. That's 54.4%. Now, that's a decent number for the favorites. It's on the plus side, but there was a clear divide on big favorites and small favorites I want to share with you. Favorites of more than 7 are only 36% against the spread since 2018, but small favorites, less than 7, have cashed 63%. So favorites profitable overall, small favorites up to -7, 63%. Big favorites of 7 or more have been 36%. How about teams off a win as a dog? That's pretty indifferent. But if you are off a win as a dog and you are getting 5 or more points in that upset win, you have gone 12-20, 37.5% against the spread. That goes all the way back to 2013. How about if both teams went over in round one? It doesn't happen often because, again, 60% of every round one games have gone under. But if both teams have gone over in round one, they are actually 63.6% against the spread over under in round two. And finally, how about round two teams that won their first game as a favorite, but they failed to cover against the spread? We often see that you rest players in round one. You're a big seed. You can empty the bench. You can get some guys some minutes. So those round two teams that won the game one but failed to cover have gone 62.5%. Just FYI, those teams, Auburn, Tennessee, and Texas Tech today. And lastly, round two low totals of 127 or less have gone 8-24 over under. That's 75% to the under. So think about it. We talked about round two games going over 54%. If we took out those very low totals of 127 or less, that's going to make that number closer to 57% on the overs since 2018, round two of March Madness.
So, Ralph, a couple other trends and stuff that I saw over, on X. And again, they're not always validated. They're just what somebody says, right? Obviously, we know the Big Ten is undefeated against the spread in round one. We know that the Big 12 has performed really well outside of the University of Kansas, and the SEC has floundered. Do you have any opinions on maybe looking to fade certain conferences or bet on certain conferences? Do we keep riding the hot hand of the Big Ten, or are we too late to the party?
Yeah, I think maybe round one you do. You could say that the SEC beat each other up. I think there was some SEC bias because they were so good. Kelly, do you remember a couple years ago? The Pac-12 went like 2-12, and then the next year there was only like 3 teams in, and everyone thought they're going to get crushed. And what do Oregon and a couple teams go to the Big Eats, the Final Eight? So preconceived notions about conferences, I don't worry about them. If a conference is overrated or underrated, I think your true value only lies in round one. I think that value's passed.
Okay. Yeah. Cause yesterday I was like, okay, I'm going to bet Colorado State. I am nauseous hitting that continue button before typing in my password because the Mountain West had done so horribly to start, and they ended up getting it done late for me. But I do have some concerns. I know Art DeCesar gave out A&M as his best bet today, and I'm thinking, God, I just don't really think the SEC as a whole is that good. Now, again, I'm holding a Florida ticket in pocket, but I also have 2 Big 12 teams for futures bets as well. Okay, let's get into some of these questions here. Let's go like 10 more minutes. If you guys keep asking questions, we'll stay on. You guys stop asking questions, I'm getting out of here. I know we lost a lot of people in that technical difficulty, but if you guys have a game you want to talk about, drop it. All right. Do you think Auburn covers? Here's a perfect example of another one, Ralph. So the top seeds went 2-2. Obviously, they all 4 won, but 2-2 against the spread. Auburn and Florida did not cover. Duke and Houston did. Is this a buy low spot, if you will, on the Auburn Tigers, who, I mean, albeit they looked in round one. They didn't look like the dominant SEC 1 seed that I thought they should.
Well, you look at the way Auburn finished the season, Kel. They actually lost their last 2 regular season games against Texas A&M and Alabama. They get by Mississippi by 5, and then they lose to Tennessee. So you are talking about a brutal stretch. When you are talking about the SEC, teams in round one were basically just worn out. Can you imagine facing every SEC team they faced was a top 47 team for their last 12 games up until Alabama State? So those are the situations I look for. I do like riding teams. And I've gone back and looked at some of those number 1 teams. A couple number 1 teams have run the table and go 6-0 ATS, but more of those have gone 5-1 ATS, losing that first game. In this case, I did not get to the window on either team here. I lean Alabama, and when you look at Creighton, you have to remember this. Creighton is a massive 3-point shooting team. They're number 11 in percentage of 3-point shots, but they're not very good. They're number 159. And while they beat Louisville and shot 42% from three-pointer, we have to remember that Auburn is an elite 3-point defense, allowing only 29%, which is number 5 in the country. Lean for me on the favorite.
Really quickly, because I got a little discombobulated between Art and VR, I wanted to let you guys know if you are in the survivor pools and you're already knocked out like I am, Splash has a revival starting in about 30 minutes. Right now, you guys can join. It's over there on my X page, just pinned to the top. There is about a $40,000 overlay currently, $100,000 guaranteed. So if you guys like overlays, if you're looking to enter, it's $50. I just got 2 entries. And so that leads me to Alex. Who is your favorite team in a survivor pool for today or tomorrow? Ralph, I went a little risky. So I have 3 left in the $1 million guarantee. I have 2 in this one. And of course I have 0 in Kelly and Murray because I picked Kansas and Mizzou like an idiot, and 1 Clemson. Either way. That being said, today I have a couple of different entries and I want to hear your opinion. So I did 1 risky. I did BYU. BYU is my favorite bet today. And I took the 1.5 yesterday. I said, all right, I love this BYU team. I think Wisconsin's a little overvalued, of course, because the Big Ten just keeps on covering. So I used 1 BYU today in a, let's just say to kind of press, right? Because when you have all of these big favorites, it's easy to take an Auburn or a Purdue or, one of those teams that's like at least over a 5-point favorite. But to win these things long term, I think you have to have a little bit of, cojones, if you will. So your thoughts on who is not losing today that is a good survivor pick. I did also go Texas Tech in one. I saved St. John's, but I was also debating on maybe using A&M in another one.
Well, Kel, the important thing to remember is this. If you run out of teams, you cannot win. So to me, the most important thing, if you're going to sign up today, is to say, of these teams in round two, who do I think will get to the Final Four? Because if you have all four Final Four teams left, you're going to, you've got a great shot to win. So when I look and I say, of the teams playing today, I think Auburn can advance. I like the Texas Tech team and I like the St. John's team. I would look to not use those, but I'm not a big Purdue fan. You look at the current form of McNeese State, I really like them. So I would go, and I also like Gonzaga today against Houston, so I'm not going to use Houston. So to me, unfortunately, Kelly, with the card today, I would likely be using St. John's as mine. Now, again, you're going to have to dig into it, and it depends on who you used yesterday for that round. But again, to me, most important thing on a Survivor, pick the four teams that you love for the Final Four and try to find undervalue in those other teams to make sure you can survive the Survivor pool. Nothing would be worse than having winning teams and running out a team that's actually left playing.
Yep, there was, I think, like 36 last year, and John Murray ran out of teams. And he's like, are you kidding me? That's what happens, unfortunately. So there was, I think out of the 36, only 14 even had eligible teams in order to be able to win it. But again, if you guys are looking for a Survivor League that starts in less than an hour, probably 30 minutes even. Right now on my X page, my link is pinned. I got 2 entries. I used BYU and Texas Tech in that one today. Jesse Allen wants to know your thoughts on Arkansas St. John's. I feel like Coach Cal has his team ready to play, and they cover and possibly pull off the win. Here's my thought on St. John's, Ralph. I played this team. I played a small amount yesterday. I laid 6.5 early. I said, I'm going to put 1 unit on them now. I like them in this spot. But the real money is going to come in at halftime. St. John's has been the most prolific second half team I have ever seen. I saw them in person back in December. And since that moment, I'm like, there is something Rick Pitino says at halftime. I don't know what on earth it is, but these guys get fired up. The other night, did the same thing. I was one-eyeing it. I was falling asleep at like 10:30. Like, somebody please call me and wake me up when it's halftime, because I don't care what the number is. And guess what? St. John's ends up just absolutely obliterating them in the second half. Talk to me about Arkansas St. John's here, because I kind of am almost having regrets betting them pre-tip, knowing that my biggest bet is going to be at second half.
Well, Kelly, I'm looking right now. Second half. Yeah, well, you look for, talking about full game this year. St. John's is 23-11 in their action. First half, they're 17-18. That shows you just how well they play in the second half. Now, while I like Calipari, I was never a huge Pitino fan, but I tell you what, I give him an A+ job coaching. And why? Well, you've got to know your strength of your teams. And they are a horrific three-point shooting team. They're number 329. So what do they do on offense? They just don't take threes. They're number 342 in number of three-point shots taken. So when a coach knows his team has a weakness in something and he doesn't force the action, I had some team I was talking about a couple days ago on a radio show. They were top 15 in percentage of threes, and they were in the last 100 in three-point percentage shots. That's not using your team properly. When you have an elite defense like this, it's a situation I like. And also, with having the number 1 defense, they're currently number 1 on Ken Palm's ratings. St. John's has won 22 straight games as a favorite of -3 or more. Now, this line is a little higher, but at least that shows you they do not get beat. On the season, by the way, they're 27-1 straight up as a favorite of 3 or more. And when I look at the Hogs are only 2-8 against top 45 defenses. And when they played a top 10 defense, their offense has really been taken out of sync. Listen to what they've done against this is an Arkansas team that plays fast-paced. They scored 52, 62, and 63 points against top 10 defenses. I lean St. John's. I like the under a little bit more.
Here's one that I wanted to touch on. My good friend Pam Maldonado just sent this. Drake 8-0 outright as an underdog this season. Everybody has Texas Tech. For the Survivor. Now I'm a little nervous about playing again, because I bet against Drake the other night with Mizzou. I said Mizzou is by far the better offense. Drake hasn't played anybody. They're the dog with fleas. And Mizzou just was absolutely flat. Let's talk about Drake, Texas Tech here, Ralph, because I've still got a little bit of time to change my Survivor pick, and now I'm actually thinking I might do so.
Well, I don't know. Drake's in a position where, they're off the upset win. That's a negative. Remember, they were as a dog. When I look at Drake, Drake doesn't shoot many threes. They're good at it. But, against that Missouri, they were 5 at 10. Drake actually should have won by more. I do want to point this out. Drake was only 12 of 24 from free throws. Now, Drake is one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the country, but to miss 12 free throws and still beat Missouri by 10, while Missouri was 23 of 26 free throws. I don't know if I've ever seen a game where one team has 12 made free throws shooting 50%, the other team has 23 made free throws shooting 88%, and they still win. So that says that's a positive for Drake. But when I look at Drake now, playing this second game, Drake is a team that has obviously several talented players, but they don't use their bench, folks. They're number 316 in bench minutes. And when I look at Texas Tech, while they're a team heavy in bench minutes as well, they're not nearly as high. One of the most experienced teams in the NCAA this year, number 40. Their bench minutes are on the 223 range. They shoot three-pointers well. They shoot a lot of them. I think the number is right. I do lean the favorite in here. Slight lean, though. I like them to win the game. Not going to get to the window on either time with the ATS number.
All right, 12 more minutes here to answer some questions. Ralph, we already kind of touched on this, but Russell wants to know Purdue versus McNeese. I did bet McNeese on the money line. I had a 30% profit boost there at Hard Rock, and I thought, you know what? Let me throw something together. The dogs have not been barking at all. I mean, outside of Drake and Arkansas and McNeese, the last round, there was no double-digit upsets. There was nothing really crazy. Some of the big numbers, like Florida and Auburn, were two that didn't cover, but never really in doubt of ever losing. There really hasn't been that much madness. Do you think that maybe starts today?
I don't know. McNeese is a great story. And listen, I mean, what Will Wade has done there. And, if you think of, why is he having success? Yeah, that is the same Will Wade that was at, VCU for 2 years and LSU for 5 years. So you have a quality coach taking a team over that, is 28-6 this year. They were 30-4 his last year, and that's when he took over. Remember, before he took over here, McNeese was 11-23 3 years ago. So to take a team that had 11 wins, get him to 30 wins, and now get him to 28-6, that's not the mid-major you're accustomed to. This is a quality team with quality recruits and a Division I head coach that knows how to win. So to me, that's a positive. You look at Purdue, and Matt Painter, what they've done down the stretch. Have they had an impressive win since, maybe Michigan, January 24th. Losses to Michigan, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan. Their only win against a top 40 Ken Pom team since January 24th is against UCLA, who was number 19 at the time, and they only won that game by 10. There is no way I am betting Purdue in any situation with Matt Painter as the head coach in an NCAA tournament game. And when you look at the analytical metrics, the last 3 weeks, and I'll just give Bart Torvik's site a shout out. A lot of people, we talk Ken Pom a lot, but Bart Torvik for me is the best site because you can adjust dates, you can adjust sites. And when I take the metrics for the last 3 weeks, McNeese State has actually played as the 33rd best team. Purdue is number 37. The offense is 45. The defense is 48. Purdue's offense has been great at number 12, but Purdue's defense over the last 3 weeks, number 154. Plus, Purdue's going to play very slow. I'm not going to lay 6 or 6.5 with them when they're in no hurry to bring the ball up. I'm with you on McNeese State today. Outright upset wouldn't shock me.
I will take an outright upset just for fun, just to kind of feel something, Ralph. It has been rather boring, if you will. I know it sounds kind of crazy that March Madness has been kind of boring, probably because I'm also, let's see, I'm 3-3 in my March Madness bets. Nothing exciting. Ralph, anything exciting to leave our audience with? I know the NIT game is going to tip off here shortly. Anything you've got over at WagerTalk that you would like to share?
Yeah, I have my NCAA and package up. A 7-5 start, so 58% in March Madness for me. Couple bad beats, as you said, and I am going to pound myself in the head, Kelly. We talked about unders. I used 3 unders in March Madness year and went 1-2. I'm watching that Clemson game going, how the hell did that game go over the total after Clemson scored, 15 points in the first half? So looking forward to a great package. There's a lot of great packages at WagerTalk. And remember, expiring this Tuesday, you can get the rest of March for free by buying April. $299 gets you the rest of March for free, in addition to all of April. That is not only me, but any of your favorite handicappers at WagerTalk.com.
Love it. I've got McNeese State money line, BYU money line, and UCLA money line in a little fun parlay. Also, guys, if you got knocked out of your survivor pool, Splash Sports on my page, pinned to the top, is one with a pretty nice overlay. Still almost $40,000 with about 40 minutes to go. That one's ticking really quickly. Thank you to Ralph at Cal Sports LV. Thank you to VR at Greek_Gambler. And thank you to Art DeCesar from the Westgate Superbook at Art Dice 21. We'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same place on the Wager Talk YouTube channel.